This is John McNulty. I'm the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Rutgers University, and we're just going to take you through some of our basic drills we like to do every day with the quarterbacks. We start every day with our center quarterback exchange to make sure we're comfortable with and confident with our exchange every time we come up with the center. And what we try to do is work the different run game footwork for the quarterback and the run mechanics of the center. So we'll put somebody shaded just off the center and make them reach and give them some resistance every time we snap the ball. So we're not just firing on an air. We'll try to make it as realistic as we can. And always making them reach somewhere, either a back block or a long reach block, because that's usually where the exchange problems occur with the quarterback. And we try to get the quarterback to have a feel for when that guy is reaching away. That's the side you kind of have to ride a little bit longer to make sure you secure the snap. As far as the taking of the snap, what we try to emphasize with the quarterback is that we could put the feet parallel or staggered. If we stagger it, we like to put the left toe on the right heel, as you kind of can see here. We want the weight on the insteps, and the premium always is on no false movement by the quarterback. We put the middle finger right down the crease of the center's butt, and we try to keep our head up and the eyes active down the field to read our keys, whether it's safety reads or whether we're trying to see if they are setting up a blitz. We try to keep our eyes down the field and active. The bottom hand we have flared at 30 degrees. This is our backstop, our trap hand. And we try to keep our thumbs together as we're taking the snap, as you can see here where the bottom hand is placed. The pressure comes from the bottom hand up through the top hand is what we try to tell them. And the fingers are spread comfortably but not tense as we take the snap. The quarterback obviously knows the direction the center is stepping, as we said, so we'll try to keep it in one piece to slide with his rear end to make sure we take the snap cleanly. And the quarterback should stomach the ball every time, whether it's run or pass. So as you see here, again, this is how we start every day, and then we get to a setup. These are all run setups for the quarterback and center, and then we'll end up getting a couple throws in as well, just to kind of get the arms loose. It's always the job of the quarterback to get the snap, regardless of circumstances. Again, we want the eyes active downfield. If the snap gets mishandled, whether it's in this drill or in any kind of live work you do, we don't want to form any bad habits. The quarterback needs to get down, cover the ball, and cradle it, as we talk about in our ball security section of how we want to recover fumbles. But we do not want to get in the habit of just looking at the ball on the ground, because we don't want the quarterback to get in the mix of recovering it. So, again, we'll do this every day. You can see here with these shaded noses, this is more of a pass set here on a draw play, but we'll try to make the centers work so it's realistic with the plays we run, and we make sure we secure these snaps every day and get the quarterbacks secured with the centers that they'll be working with in practice. Now we go to the gun snaps. Again, we make the quarterbacks go through their cadence. This is also part of the center quarterback exchange period. We try to use different cadences to let the quarterback get comfortable doing it, to let the center feel comfortable hearing the different cadences and making sure that the snaps come off on time. When we go to the gun snaps, we talk about some of our third down plays. We try to get the quarterbacks to think through what the possible looks may be, whether it's blitz, what the coverage looks may be as they drop back and work their footwork through, and then they actually get an extra throw in again to get themselves loosened up a little bit. What we do at times is if you're a team that does any gun run, this is a good time to make the centers again work to block either the shade or block back on a three, depending on what your plays may be, because with a lot of the centers, it's a little bit different snapping and pass setting and snapping and blocking the gun run. So we like to work in some of our run plays here as well to make sure that the centers are working to block those plays, not just snapping and pass setting all the time. For the quarterback, we like to have a comfortable stance, the knees slightly bent, but we know what the snap count is, obviously, because we're the ones calling it as the quarterback. We want to have our eyes active for our blitz keys and our safety keys down the field as we're going through the cadence, and then as we're settling on the final cadence call, the eyes have to get to the center's rear end to the ball. And we want to take the ball all the way in. You can see 14 here on the end. It's a pretty good look at. We want to watch the ball all the way into our hands, and then as quick as possible get the laces and then get to our drop. But obviously the most important part of this drill is to get the snap. So we don't want guys looking away. We don't want guys looking down the field to find safeties when the ball is traveling in the air. This is a way to get a number of snaps done before practice with the centers, work through a little bit of footwork with the quarterback, get him a little bit warmed up. But if you make the centers work and you make the quarterback concentrate every time on these snaps, then it becomes a purposeful drill that will benefit you in the long run. As we move on here to some of our pocket movement drills, the one thing we find is that very rarely do plays just come off on rhythm, where a guy takes a drop, sets, throws. That happens a small percentage of the time in the game. So what we try to do is to keep it as realistic as possible, that our drill work will translate into the games, is make the quarterbacks kind of work in the pocket. Now this is a drill we start practice with a lot, just to make the feel. The emphasis here is 2 hands on the ball, keeping yourself with your footwork within that cylinder every time, with your eyes down the field. You don't want to overstride anything, and we don't want to look down at the bags. Usually when we start doing this, particularly with a younger quarterback, what happens is they start to look down on the ground for where the bags are, rather than just letting themselves flow through the footwork of reaching back. And you can see here his legs really never come out of that cylinder. He stays with a good base underneath, and you can have him deliver the ball really wherever you want to go. This is a different look at it. You see this, we put a target here right in front of him. You can move the target wherever you want. And we try to tell the guy, hey, try to hit that target right in the face. But the important thing is, again, that they keep their eyes up down the field, keep 2 hands on the ball, keep their feet moving within that cylinder where they're ready really at any time within this drill to set their feet and throw it. Okay, we just happen to, in this portion of it, let them roll all the way through. It gets their hips loose. It gets them moving around. If they're guys that don't run a lot already during practice, at least it gets them moving, getting a sweat going as the practice starts. But the emphasis, it does carry over to football, because this is how you move your feet in the pocket with your eyes down the field, always concentrating on what is in front of you, not what is hitting you in the feet, not that somebody got pushed down, that you're gonna feel that slide, keep your legs alive, keep your eyes active down the field, and be able to be ready to deliver the ball when needed. So this is a good way to get started with our drills really every day. This fits in a little bit what we just talked about with the center quarterback exchange. What we try to do here is give really 4 rapid fire gun snaps. We could give it to him right in the gut. We could give it to him on the toes. We could give it to him up high where he really has to go reach for it. And you could see here some guys set up in the end zone. You can set them up as deep as you want as far as targets go. But this is more of a rapid-fire drill. We can watch if his eyes are going to follow the ball or if his eyes are going to stay down the field. And then he also was practicing getting the laces, taking his drop, whatever the prescribed drop may be for your play. This particular play here, we're saying 3 and a hitch. At times we just have him catch and throw. It all depends on how poorly the snap comes back. But it makes him look it in, get the laces, get the ball out quickly on all the different angles. And again, you start to emphasize the throwing motion and the grip and so forth as you go through. But a lot of times what guys have problems with is they start to lapse their concentration as the snap is coming back, and they also fumble to get the laces and be able to get the ball out on time. So the idea again here is, get the snap, keep your eyes with it, keep those eyes active, get the ball down the field. Again, you can move those targets wherever you want to put them. You can use, there's times when if 4 snaps become too many, you can make it 2 or 3. But here, these are realistic things that happen, unfortunately, in the game. The snap comes rolling back. The snap goes over your head. Obviously, if it gets by the quarterback, then you're talking about a disaster as far as the game goes. The next drill we go to simulate some pocket movement is our wave drill. As the coach, you just stand in front and give the directions. You could take a 5 or 7 step drop. Again, the quarterback is simulating the movements that normally take place in the pocket. The full drop, sliding forward, sifting backwards, sliding up in the pocket, moving back away from a rush, keeping, again, 2 hands on the ball and his eyes down the field, his legs up underneath him, a good tight cylinder. You could emphasize parts of the drops here. You want those knees bent. You want to be able to deliver the ball at any point during the drill. What we do as a coach is just give them the directions by pointing your hands each way, and then finally at the end yelling "go" to simulate the throwing of the ball. Again, we want them to keep their eyes down the field. We want to be able to deliver, and as soon as you give them that go call, that they set their feet immediately and throw to the target. You can move the target around to different spots depending on where you normally think you'll deliver the ball, and make sure that they, again, are throwing accurately at that target. Here we see a little bit of a wide base here, a little bit out of the cylinders, a little bit bigger guy, but we don't want to get overstrided. I mean, the guy's got to realize that if you give him that go call right here, he's got to be able to set his feet and throw, and you don't really want those feet out too wide from underneath you. Got to be able to deliver the ball at any time when that receiver comes open. That's kind of the idea of the drill. Now we'll go to kind of a box drill. Again, we'll start with the drop, whether you want to go 5-step or 7-step to get the drop going, and just set the cones up to where we just take the straight drop, sift forward, slide up in the pocket, slide up, and then give them the go call at some point during the box here, and have them deliver the ball. So you get your full drop, eyes down the field, strong in the pocket here, legs up underneath you, 2 hands on the ball, slide forward. This is a lot of times you get a rush from behind, pockets collapsing, slide forward, sift up in the pocket, deliver the ball. So we do this in both directions, same idea here. Good drop, slide, move up. Again, this will get their hips loosened up a little bit. This is right at the beginning of practice to kind of get ready for the practice and for the day. Now, the other thing is we just move the box backwards. So it's the same idea here with whether it's a 5 or 7-step drop. Then we sift backwards in the pocket, feeling with our legs, keeping our eyes down the field, not looking back for what we're sliding for, and then slide up in the pocket and then deliver. So these things, again, they just simulate the movements that happen in the pocket. Again, rarely does a guy just take this drop like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hitch and throw it. It happens at times on some different routes, but most of the time he's waiting. It's to try to get him to keep those feet active in the pocket, to keep those eyes downfield and be ready to throw, rather than kind of resting in the pocket or becoming sloppy with the ball and then you're not ready to deliver. This kind of tries to keep their eyes active, their feet active, and always ready to deliver the ball on time. The next thing we'll move to is, again, we'll try to make the quarterback feel uncomfortable in the pocket as best we can. Whether it's throwing, you saw a little bit before with having the bags down low and he has to shuffle through. Here we'll just try to create some distractions as he takes his drop. Now, in doing this, in this case, we're talking about a 7-step drop. We'll emphasize all the mechanics of being smooth on your drop, being quick, but not getting yourself out of whack as far as your base and the cylinder underneath you to deliver the ball, and being able to just take your drop with your eyes down the field, looking through your progression without worrying about what may be happening in front of you with the rush, what may be coming at your legs, just concentrating on. There's enough that goes on in the pocket to where we can keep these guys centered on what's going on in front of them, not looking for the bags. Usually, again, when we start doing this, the guys are looking at me, for the bag. They look down when the bag hits their legs. As they get going and get some experience doing it, they're more into just keeping their eyes down the field. Now, Here we'll try to give the different rush angles that occur. You make them take a 5-step, 7-step, 3-step, whatever drop you want to have them take, usually 5 or 7 in this type of drill, and just give them the uncomfortable feel of the rush and try to distract, again, where that's a legitimate pocket movement that has to be made as the pocket collapses, whatever the slide may be, again, with the feet up underneath and a good base, and then able to come out of whatever the traffic is, boom, and deliver the ball. So there's not any kind of wasted movement here. Again, 2 hands always on the ball in the pocket, staying strong in the pocket. This is a little bit of an overreach here where the legs get kind of too far extended, where right there he's not able to move, set, and throw. The first guy, every time he moved, he would be able to set and throw. This here, move, you're not ready to set and throw. If you are, your legs are too wide, the throw will probably go away. You can see here where he has to bring that back foot back up underneath him to get a base up, to get the ball out. That's not what you want. You want the guy to keep that base all the time because, again, standing in the pocket, you got to be able to deliver the ball. So try to just give some different rushes from all different angles as we go, the things that happen in the game, again, with the assumption that rarely are we going to just drop back and be able to throw the ball uninhibited on rhythm. So we'll try to, as we go, give the different angles. This here could be just a kind of jailbreak scramble that may happen. Again, you put your target down the field. We tell the guys when they're moving, and when you're running, throw it right at the guy. Because usually, again, as you're running right here, if you're aiming for a yard in front of them to the right, the ball will probably go about 5 yards in front of them to the right and won't get completed. So as we're on the move, whether we use a stationary or moving target, the idea on the scramble is to throw it right at the target, and the ball will take care of itself as you go. So there's a force into a scramble. Again, you don't want them to just rush through their drop. You want them to take smooth, take their drop, another kind of move to make them slide up and deliver. Again, the targets can move to the depth, to the landmarks that you want. Again, a little bit of an overstride there before the ball came out. Again, these are all designed to just make them feel uncomfortable in the pocket, make them move, and get to the point where he doesn't even acknowledge this. And obviously you have to know if a guy's going to come in and sack you, but acknowledge what's going on and just concentrate on keeping the ball down the field. You would want the ball out quicker there. Here, boom, get set, get the ball out. You get a 3 technique that comes busting through the guard here. He's in your face, avoid, set, throw. Here you get a guy coming from behind, across the bow here, kick back, set, throw. Keep the feet up underneath you at all times. Here is just, being strong in the pocket. Kind of somewhat of a jailbreak here in front. Guys coming, they're getting run by the quarterback. Rather than there's really nowhere to go in or out here, you got to stay strong, keep 2 hands on the ball, power your way through, and be able to throw. Now, whether it be if the guy's open, you'd be throwing it. If not, you'd be running it. But the idea is here to stay strong in the pocket, keep 2 hands on the ball. As the rushers come, you bowl your way through with some power, still keep yourself set, keep your feet active and your eyes active, and you're ready to deliver the ball down the field. So those are some of the things we try to do just to make guys feel a realistic rush every time, so it's not just a smooth drop back and throw the ball. Ball handling is one thing that sometimes gets overlooked or not practiced. We practice it every day with our running backs. We do not take it for granted. We emphasize the footwork of the quarterback, the footwork of the backs, the landmarks. We use the strip every day to simulate guard, tackle, and tight end rather than having to put a full line out. But we'll start practice with this every day as we get into practice, into our individual drills after we've done CQ exchange. This is where we like to go with the running backs. Again, you can see now if the running back has got his eyes on his target, if he's legitimately hitting his landmark, whatever it may be as you look at the strip. With the quarterbacks, we emphasize the seating of the ball, the steps out, depending on whatever the play may be, and then the setup for the pass or the naked out fake every time. So, again, this is something we don't want to take for granted. Whatever the play series may be, we try to get every guy to get a rep here with a back try to set it up so the backs and quarterbacks that work together are mainly together here in the drill. But this is something that again gets overlooked, whether it's the setup fake that gets overlooked or it's the actual ball handling, footwork of the quarterback that get overlooked, whatever the terms are of your play, whether here in power. You don't want the quarterback to overstep to cut off the A-gap for the back. You want the back downhill. Where you can stand back here behind the drill and look right into the back's eyes and know exactly what he is looking at as he comes through. And again, you emphasize the ball security every time. You can see the backs with the ball high and tight, covered, elbow down, tip covered every time. And what we do is we put a cone here at 7 yards in front of the strip. That's our finish spot. We have our back, whether it's 7, 8 yards, depending on what we're doing, deep in the backfield. And we put that finish cone. You could see it barely there, but it's 7 yards past the strip. And we make sure every running back, every time they get a rep, finishes through that cone. Again, to make sure that we're not getting in lazy habits, that we, to just tell them 7 yards, sometimes it just won't work out. I think you need to have a landmark out there for him to be able to run through. Here we go with the gun run a little bit. This is gun draw or whether it's a read play. Again, same idea, not to be taken for granted because it is a little bit different mesh. You want to make sure the back's timing is right so it doesn't run over a gun snap too quickly. You want to make sure the quarterback feels comfortable of laying the ball out there and then going through his fake mechanics, that the landmarks are the same as far as how far you want him to carry out the sweep across the ball before going vertical as the back. If you do any kind of gun run or reading, ride and decide, as they say, again, this needs to be worked heavily. Because there's always a chance of having a missed exchange here where one guy thought you were giving it, the other guy thought he's taking it, and all of a sudden the ball's on the ground, two guys are running away from it. So you can simulate whatever the read may be, if it's an end, if it's a three technique, or whatever it is you're reading on a play as a coach. Obviously, you can simulate to get the decision that you want. But I think this has to be worked quite heavily because this is a part where the ball could easily end up on the ground. You have someone that can simulate that gun snap. It's probably not a bad idea, again, to give them a couple bad ones, whatever your rules may be on bad snap, give, or keep. But it's probably not a bad idea to every once in a while fire one of those snaps up high to make sure he handles it and is confident in doing that and doesn't panic when it comes up during the game and then throws the ball at the running back or throws it on the ground or panics. So that, again, is something that we'll get to every day with the running backs. As we get into the routes with the receivers, because really, as the quarterbacks go, this is what they do. They need to get together and take their drops and throw to actual real targets that are moving. I mean, you can simulate them all you want, but what we like to do is, get two quarterbacks working, throwing to two different lines of receivers. A line out to the left, a line out to the right if we can, depending on how many numbers we have up practicing and so forth. But we just go one quarterback at a time, one guy that goes to the left and the next guy goes to the right, so you can still watch, your quarterbacks as they're going through their drills so they don't just get to where they're just running through on air and not paying attention to their drops and their throws. I mean, you're going on air, you should complete every ball. The drops should be exactly what we're looking for every time. That was a little bit wide here. This guy's stepping out of his cylinder a little bit, overstriding a little bit here. Okay, you got to watch these drops every time as the receiver coach is watching the routes every time because they all should be right on exactly what you want. There's a 5 and a hitch. Again, this is a little bit better look at the mechanics of, again, a smooth 5-step drop with his feet and base up underneath him, hitch, and deliver and throw. The things we talk about in throwing the football, when we grip the ball, we like to move the forefinger to the back tip of the ball. We like to keep, as we've said several times here, a great base up underneath us with both feet on the ground, under our shoulders as we're getting ready to deliver the ball, and put 80% of our weight on our back foot and just take a short power step into our target. Now, some guys you'll see overstride at times. We don't want to really step outside that cylinder as we're going to deliver the ball. If anything, we tell them to step a little bit left of the intended target. That enables your hips to open. We want a little bit of a bend in the lead knee to allow that lower body weight to shift to your front side. And again, we keep two hands on the ball as long as possible. If anything, we'd like to push the ball back with our offhand, the opposite throwing hand. That kind of starts your release. It forces you to keep the ball up, and rather than pat the ball or drop that elbow too quick, it kind of gets the release started. We pull that opposite throwing elbow down by our side as we throw. That keeps your shoulders square at the release. I think if you don't drive that elbow back, you kind of lose power in the throw. We like to pivot the back hip, through to the target and kind of fire that back hip into the throw. It creates a little bit more torque. We want to fire that hip right through and into the throw. The throwing elbow should be up above your shoulder at the release. If you drop the elbow, usually the ball ends up bouncing short. We like to tell guys to get on top of the ball. We want them to release that football just past their head as their body is coming up into position to fire it, so they feel like they're on top of the throw, like as if you're throwing down off a ladder. The football should leave your forefinger last. If that ball flutters, that means your kind of fingers 4 and 5. That means you kind of held it too long with those last couple fingers before you let the thing go. And we pick up the back foot as the ball leaves our hand. That kind of allows the weight to transfer into the throw. So we try to hit all the various routes here with the outside receivers. You see deep outs, you see comebacks, you see curls, you see speed outs. All the different drops, 5 steps, 7 steps, 7 and a hitch, 5 and a hitch. As we go through, we tell them coverages, we call them out or simulate them as safety standing out there and try to get them to make sure they deliver the ball on time. Again, every one of these should get completed. You're throwing it on air. You're throwing to spots. There's no defense. There's no rush. It would come down to some kind of lack of concentration or lack of execution, which on air really should never happen. Now, as we go, we kind of break the routes down a little bit. This becomes an inside slot or the inside guy in a trip set. Again, you can set up out there exactly what you want your coverage look to be. The quarterback, again, go through his drops, whether you want to put the safety out there to show him or you want to put like a linebacker type in there to show him, hey, here's what you're getting, whether you want him to turn off leverage or into leverage or whatever the play may be. Again, as the receiver goes, we, again, will emphasize finishing the route. It's always a minimum. It's hard to put cones out there because usually we give them a yard line. Like here, we'd say, okay, we're finishing through the 25-yard line. So they know they catch. They got to burst at least 5 yards with the ball in the proper ball security form to catch and go. Again, so they're not just catching it and running back to the huddle. Again, we're working the mechanics here. The quarterback, every time, the things to look for as you stand back there, you got to make sure that they keep their eyes down the field, that they don't just look at the receiver. Either you simulate a safety for them to look at, whether you're going too deep, single high, or you just look in their eyes as you stand in front of them or stand behind them to make sure their head isn't going right to the receiver every time, because that's a easily bad habit to get into when you're throwing on air. And it's something that then when they go into team period, you're telling them, hey, you got to keep your eyes down the field. You got to make them do it here as well. Otherwise, you can get into bad habits, or you get guys that are just going through the motions as they're running the drill. And again, the different routes by the inside guys sometimes get overlooked. They're important to get run to make sure your quarterbacks are comfortable with them. If you have a two-man combination, you can work it here, whether you're making man or zone calls. We try to just break down the routes as best we can to let the quarterbacks, again, work through their drops, work through their progression. You can see them snap off 1 for 2 and deliver, just so everybody is comfortable in the execution of the routes for the receivers and the throwing of the ball here for the quarterback. So at least you give them a chance when they get together with the defense. This deeps period is, you can only throw so many deep balls in practice and get the right looks and be able to step up and deliver on time. What we've done is try to simulate this as best we can with the defensive backs. What we'll do is get on the 45-yard line and put the receiver and corner hip to hip. Now, in this picture, they're on the 40, the quarterback's on the 45. I think you're really better off moving them back on the 45 on the same line as the quarterback. And the DB is already set up, turned as if he's in coverage. The receiver's in his regular stance. And what we'll do is give a cadence call, take the snap, we'll set up, go through our drop and hitch just like we would on a go route, and let it go. The receiver, the idea here is he's on his landmark, top of the numbers. He's got the DB beat, pinned to his hip, and we're trying to deliver that ball with air. We can fade him out to the sideline. He's giving you plenty of room. We don't want to leave the ball inside. Now, some of these are not great examples. Here's a ball inside. This would probably be intercepted by the safety. So it's all the idea here is we're hip to hip with the DB, and we're winning, and we need the ball delivered on time to our spot where he can go fade to it. This is a pretty good look at it right here. And the DB at the end just tails off. So he runs hip to hip. He gets the idea of kind of leaning and locating the ball, but he is not going to play the ball in the air. Somewhere down the line, you may get into allowing that DB to play the ball. You could get collisions and so forth. We just want to get the idea of landmarks, fading to the ball. It's a good look at it right here. When you have all that green out there, the sideline for the quarterback to go, let you go get it. The quarterback can take his regular drop and hitch and throw. At least he's throwing, kind of getting an idea of what he needs to put on the ball and where he needs to put the ball for the receiver to go get it. Again, as you go through practices, you usually find that you don't get enough reps at this. This is a decent look at it from here, the other side. You should go down once and come back the other side and go one time the other side. Same idea. Landmarks. It gives the receiver a chance to go play the ball in the air. It gives what we did here is we went from the shotgun here going back. We went from under center on the previous set of reps coming down the other way. So the quarterback gets the idea of the drop and hitch and timing, and the receiver gets the idea of actually going to get the ball. We'll try to do that. Again, as I said, I don't think you get enough time to practice deep balls and get enough of them thrown. This is a way to get a number of them thrown without really wearing anybody out. You know they should be completed every time, although they weren't there in that example. But that's how it goes when you first start doing it. Sometimes you find out who has a feel for their landmarks and who needs work on it. And same thing with the guys that are going and fading to the ball, whether or not they can go find it or they get an idea of where it's going to be. We try to do that a couple times a week to keep the deep balls alive. All right, the air scout period, we call it teach pass. What we try to do here is it's full speed, shifts and motions. We try to get some plays called where we're moving some guys around. Landmarks, everything should be right on. The splits should be exact. The launch points off motion should be exact. The route combination should be exact. And what we can do is give some different safety reads if we want on air as coaches out there. The other thing we do, we actually have 3 quarterbacks throwing. One guy calling the cadence, setting the motion, and taking the snap, and 2 other guys on the flanks that take kind of mini drops, and we tell them who they're throwing to. Hey, the coverage is this. This quarterback's throwing here. This quarterback's throwing here. This quarterback's throwing here. So we get 3 balls delivered every time on rhythm. And we can get a number of plays repped and a lot of guys catching footballs. And this is usually where we'll introduce our new concepts for the day, our new shifts, our new motions, our new pass plays. We'll get introed here, so at least they get a couple reps on it. But we do this a minimum of 5 minutes a day, whether we've put a lot of plays in or whether we haven't put many plays in. This is something we find is important. It makes them run some of these plays on air, obviously, but if you set up coverages or you tell him, hey, this is the coverage, then you watch his eyes and see if he goes through his reads and gets it to his right progression. Because regardless of who you tell him he's throwing to, if the guy you give him to throw to is number 2 in the read, he's got to look at 1 and pop to 2. If the guy you gave him to throw to is number 3 and the progression. He's not just dropping back mindlessly, looking at the guy and throwing it to him. He's got to work his way through his progression before he goes and throws the ball. So 3 guys get to catch the ball, even though there's 5 guys running the routes. But what we get is the progression work done by the quarterback. We give them an idea of what the blitz is. It's not a rapid-fire thing. You come out of the huddle, you call it and run it, and you tell them, hey, here's the coverage, here's who's throwing to who, and then they run it full speed. They finish every one of these reps. You can see here, again, there's no shortage on the emphasis for the receivers of how you want them to finish. You want the routes exact, and here's a good look at the ball security here. We want them finishing minimum 10 yards after the catch, running the ball down the field. That's a good look right there. We don't want to build bad habits as far as the ball security goes. It's another good look at it there. And then we run back to the huddle and we go again. Usually minimum of 2 groups running this, 2 main quarterbacks with 2 other guys flanking it. So really you can get 4 quarterbacks minimum work here. You can shuttle as many as you want, but what we'll do at times is just have the starter call the cadence and run one of the plays. Then the second guy runs the next, but then you have the 2 guys flanking him that give you a chance to get 4 guys to throw the ball and at least have to think through the play and hear the play called and operate it under some sort of progression. So, again, this is something we do every day, and every detail of the drill is important, just as they all are for all these drills. We feel like we give our guys a chance to succeed under game-like conditions by doing these things and by emphasizing all the little details as we go through the drills, and I hope they help you out.